or murdered, they just said, I am excused since I'm compelled. Majboor. You say majboor, so I'm sure it's another language also in Arabic, meaning I'm compelled. So what happens? In Farsi, they probably have it as well. It's from Arabic, don't get happy.
Jam is like you're forced to do it.
Exactly.
Who was the starter of both groups? Who started the Qadariyah? Who started
The Qadariyah and the Jabariyah, I'm not sure if there's any one person you can attribute to being the beginners. The Mu'tazila there is, and we'll go over that. Yes, sir.
Since these two creeds are so extreme, anybody who believes in it, does that constitute kufr?
It takes them outside the fold of Islam.
Given the difference between the shots of this sect and the people, the laymen?
The thing is, this sect, it denied both of them denied some of the principal core beliefs of Islam. When you say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't have the ability to do and I have the ability to do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't know, you have taken away some of the core beliefs. So even the layman has to be held responsible for this. This is the base of Aqidah. It's not a fiqh ruling or something that if you read the Quran once, you will be able to know this is wrong. On the other hand, if you start saying that I have no accountability, again you're going against the basis of Quran. So you have to be held accountable. So these two groups, they left outside the fold of Islam.
Inshallah, after we're done in the question and answer period, there's an ayah of the Quran that if you take it at face value, you might be fooled into thinking like Qadariyah.
Right.
And so, anyway, inshallah.
So, there is a whole book on Qadr that Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen wrote, which you can get in English and Arabic, and it's a very good explanation. There are many ayat of Quran that if you take them in isolation, you would think that you have no choice in anything. And there are other ayat that mention about the hisab and what the humans do, that if you take them in isolation, you may think that you have ultimate choice. But if you take the Quran together, it becomes very clear. The Aqidah of the Ahl Sunnah, the Aqidah of the Sahaba anhum, that before these fitnas began, was very clear. That there are umur where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you no choice. Right? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written death for you, it's written death for you. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written sihha for you, it's sihha for you. When marad for you, it's marad for you, right? But there are umur where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is inviting you towards do them. Aqimus salah. Why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala order you to do something if it's already written for you? This is a choice given to you. Now, there is an aspect of qadr that you have to understand is from the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the ilm. The ilm of what's going to happen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. Right? So who's going to Jannah? Who's going to Jahannam? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows it. Who's going to be happy? Who's going to be sad? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows it. Who's going to establish the salah? Who's not going to establish the salah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows it. But the difference between this and thinking you have no choice is the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still gave you a choice. But from the amazing attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which are beyond our comprehension, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't force you, but He knows what choice you're going to make. Because time to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not a constraint. In the Quran, you will see the ayat about Qiyamah and stuff will be in Fa'al Madi. Why? Because if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders it, it's as if it's done. Right? So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam the punishments in hell, even though there is nobody in hell. Why? Because time doesn't restrict Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you see? So the mistake which is made by the people is to think that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written something for us, then we are like robots and whatever we do, it will have no effect. No. It is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the decision we're going to make. But we still have to strive. And our struggling and striving is what we will get reward and punishment upon. If we had no choice, how can we be rewarded or punished? And if we had ultimate choice, then we would be able to control when we're born, when we die, when we get sick, which we can't. So between that balance is the Aqidah of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Inshallah, this here I'm just going over the groups. In Lum'at al-I'tiqad, Ibn Qudama, he will go over Qadr as well as a separate section. But here I just wanted to go over all the groups, inshallah.
So this is your own sharh then?
This is just notes which are based off Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani's distinction on the 73 sects. That's why it's all black.
Lum'at al-I'tiqad is in red.
Yes, in brownish reddish. It's all black today. So the fourth sect is the Mu'tazila. The Mu'tazila emerged in the time after the blessed Sahaba radiallahu anhum, during the time of the Tabi'een and the days of Imam Hassan al-Basri in particular. Especially Hassan al-Basri will be mentioned here. Why? One of Imam Hassan al-Basri's students who left his teaching was Wasil bin Ata'. Wasil bin Ata', he was one of the students of Hassan al-Basri. And once he was, it's a long story, I took the story out. He was sitting in the gathering of Hassan al-Basri, and somebody asked a question of Hassan al-Basri, that what happens to the Muslim who commits major sins? Does he go to Jannah or Jahannam? So before Hassan al-Basri could answer, Wasil, he got up and he answered. And this is one of the things the ulama wrote, one of his first mistakes was to overstep his bounds in front of his teacher. The teacher was Hassan al-Basri, is the one the question was asked from. Why did he need to get up and answer? So he got up and he answered, and he said that the Muslim who is a fasiq, who does major sins, he is not kafir, as the Khawarij used to say, but he will be in Jahannam forever. He will never go to Jannah. Hassan al-Basri, he told him, like, where did you come from? Sit down. He said, this is not the right answer. So he got upset because he had pride. So he said, we will leave you. So he left. And some of the students went with him. And they became what became the Mu'tazila. So he's the one that brought up the idea of the station between the two stations. And he claimed that a Muslim who commits a major sin is no longer a believer, nor is he a kafir, but he is going to be, he is in an intermediate station between kufr and iman, that of fisq, and will remain eternally in hell. Hassan al-Basri expelled him from his circle, from his halaqah, and they isolated themselves near one of the pillars of the masjid. As a result, they became known as the Mu'tazila, meaning the people who were of isolation, from i'tizal, from breaking away or becoming isolated. Wasil bin Ata' was the founder and organizer of this group. During the Abbasiyya Khilafah under Ma'mun al-Rashid, the Mu'tazila would delve into Greek logic, and the Mu'tazila were the ones who brought the fitna of using logic over dalil into the Muslim Ummah. The later groups that came out of the Mu'tazila, you will recognize them very clearly. But the first to bring this ideology was them. And what happened, some of the Orientalists, they call this the golden period of Islam, because Muslims started gathering the knowledge from the Greeks and the Romans and the Persians and the Indians, the Hindu, and translating them into Arabic. One of the benefits that came out of it was a lot of mathematical and scientific advancements. But one of the harms that came out of it was Greek mythology and philosophy started to creep into the Aqidah of Muslims. So what happened? They started reading all these philosophical works on, it is, but it isn't, and it isn't, so it is, and all these things where the Greeks, they would start to talk about the creator or the force of creation and speak of it in such a way that it would not be a deity, but it would just be a force. And the Mu'tazila became influenced by this. So, unfortunately, the Khulafa at the time of the Abbasiyya were impressed by the Mu'tazila. Because they were eloquent speakers, they translated many Greek books, and these were things that the Khulafa used to compete in. If somebody would bring a new book and translate it, and they would have it, and somebody else wouldn't have it, they would show off. You may have the Quran or whatever, but look, I have a new book. This was written in Greece, and now I have it in Arabic, and this was written in India, and now I have this. And the Ahl Sunnah, and the people of Hadith, they would say, okay, they were striving to get the books of Hadith and collect Hadith, while these rich people became more influenced and were impressed by things that were outside of Islam. And when they were translated and brought in, it became as a status symbol for them.
Did the founder of the Mu'tazila, did he ever make tawbah before?
Wallahu a'lam, but we don't know if him making tawbah. Allah knows best.
The six that you mentioned, are they out of the fold of Islam?
Yes. So far. Some of them there will be from them that were out and from them that were in.
The
But-
first four are definitely.
But so far, they're all out.
So what makes them out is the belief that a major sin does not, that
No.
makes you between two stations? Is that what makes them out of it?
That is one of the things that they've definitely deviated on. But we will go over more of their beliefs, and it will become clear what takes them out of Islam.
You said the guy Shaykh Ghazali was battling too?
Imam Ghazali, no.
Or he was later?
He was later, first off. He battled some aspects of them. They split into many sects. The Mu'tazila, the Ashariya, the Maturidiyya are all sects that came out of the i'tizal of the Mu'tazila. And that's why till today, their tafasir are very popular, unfortunately. Especially amongst Ashari and Maturidi ulama, they read from their tafasir.
That was my second question. All of these groups that are still existing today in one form or
No,
another?
not really. The Qadariya and the Jabariya, as a group, they've almost all finished, most of them. But aspects of their fitna is there, and you will continuously see these groups being reincarnated again and again. And inshallah, as I said, when we go over the 73 that Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani rahmatullah alayhi had mentioned, you will find every new fitna that you have today will be a reincarnation of them. In Azhar, in the 1950s, there was a mufti. He was one of the head muftis. He came out and said, we don't believe in Isa alayhi salam, his descent. And this was one of the aspects from the Mu'tazila that they took. Yeah.
They took that
So-
ideology.
Yeah, many other people. And not to say that Azhar in itself, but one person, I mean not the university. And in India, in Pakistan, in America, you will see people that bring their ideas. The Mu'tazila, you will especially see them alive today in the US, not under this name, but parts of their ideology. And let us continue and you will understand. Who broke them? They became very powerful. The Khulafa bought into them. They became the head muftis, and they took over the Khalifa basically, and the entire Khilafah was under their control until one man, which is Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, stood up to them. In Baghdad, where the Abbasiyya were centered and all of the area that they controlled, they began, and how they were able to force their Aqidah to bring a fight, they said that we believe, and they called themselves Ahlul Tawheed wal Adl. Like they put a nice name, the people of Tawheed and justice. And they said, we believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one in such a way that there cannot be anything that is not connected physically to Allah that is not from Allah. And again, this is all philosophy, right? This is nothing from the Quran or Sunnah. So they said, the Greek philosopher said that an entity cannot be without its whole, right? So in philosophy, they had this idea. So they started saying, how can you say the Quran is the words of Allah when the Quran is in front of us? We read it, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says it's His word, just His words. We believe in it, stop. This is where the Athariyya or the Hanabila or the Sahaba, this is where they stopped. These guys decided, let's take it a step further. We want to philosophize this issue. No, it cannot be, So they said the Quran is makhluk. And they convinced the Khalifa, and then they said, let's rid the ummah of anybody who doesn't believe in what we believe. So they said, we're going to start having trials. Whoever doesn't believe that the Quran is makhluk, it's a part of the creation, and whoever says this is the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will imprison them, kill them, exile them, whatever.